In this lesson, we will train on landing a JF-17 and instrument flight rules, IFR, conditions using a TACAN plus ILS approach. The main purpose of the lesson is to learn the night landing with ILS guidance, but you can also optionally taxi to the ramp and perform the shutdown procedure for additional practice. Press spacebar to begin. The JF-17 autopilot is active, so that you can take a moment to set up the aircraft to your liking. We have also placed the sim on active pause, while we configure the aircraft. First, activate the flashlight to more easily see the cockpit Good, now adjust the cockpit lighting, using the knobs at the right console. As this is a peacetime mission, to declutter the HSI we will turn off the RWR receiver. The first step on the landing procedure, is to contact the ATC of the destination airport, to request permission to land. So, we need to tune the COM1 radio to Senaki's ATC frequency. Use the UFC panel to select preset 049 for COM1, as you have already learned to do on previous training missions. Good. As you've done on previous lessons, click the button again to enter edit mode, and then input 049 as the COM1 preset. Once you have COM1 tuned, use the HOTAS COM1 button to call up ATC, select Senaki and request landing inbound. ATC should respond and assign runway 09. Close the communications menu with F12. Press spacebar once ATC has responded, click on the RTN button, to return to the main menu of the upfront control panel. Good, the upfront control panel is now showing its main menu. The next step is to select the navigation submenu. For that, click on the button next to Flight Plan A, on the UFCP. This is the UFCP navigation menu. For landings, we will select the approach submenu, by clicking on the button next to APR. This is the approach navigation submenu. The JF-17 navigation computer provides three types of approach, ILS, TCN and SCA. Today, we will use TCN for an IFR TACAN navigation towards the FAF point, where we will change to ILS for the final landing approach. Click the highlighted button, until TCN is selected. Press spacebar to continue. OK, now the highlighted option is one that allows two different approach profiles, FAF or RWY. Make sure that FAF is selected, as we will perform a TACAN navigation towards the FAF point, before turning left and change to an ILS approach to the runway. Press spacebar to continue. On the left MFCD, the navigation system automatically shows the approach page, with all the data that the system has about the destination airport. On the right MFCD, the HSI shows the route line towards the FAF and then a break line towards the airport, identified with the number 50 within a circle. Use the zoom buttons of the HSI to be able to visualize our destination airbase. Press spacebar to continue. Continuing with the landing procedure, make sure that master arm is set to off. Next, cage the targeting pod camera, if installed, by selecting the targeting pod control page on an MFCD and selecting cage. This is done before landing to prevent foreign object damage to its lenses. We will use the center MFCD to check the pod, click on its menu button. Now, click on the pod button. Next, click on the WMD7 button. Good, the message on the center of the MFCD tells us that the targeting pod is off, and thus no further caging is needed. Press spacebar. Next, we will open the FE's page on the central MFCD, as it will be helpful during the ILS approach. Click on the Displays menu button. OK, now click on the button next to FE's, to call up its page. OK, we are now ready to start the flight. We will now disconnect the autopilot and unpause the sim. Keep the aircraft on a course of 145 degrees and a speed around 350 knots, and begin descending towards the FAF point. Try to reach the FAF at around 3,000 feet MSL, so perform a shallow descent, not exceeding -5 degrees on the HUD ladder. Press spacebar to continue. On the HUD, the vertical arrow to the right of the flight path marker is the TACAN deviation arrow. We will use it later, when we get nearer the FAF. On the heading tape, the inverted chevron points towards the FAF, so turn slightly left to point the nose of the plane, the vertical bar, to that direction. You are about to cross the cloud cover. To prevent disorientation, do not look outside, focus only on the HUD and its cues. You are near the FAF, try to arrive there at an altitude of about 3,000 feet, and a speed of 300 knots. When the tack and deviation arrow starts to move to the left, it is your cue to begin a left-hand turn towards Senaki, on a heading of around 90 degrees. The navigation computer will place a small square on the airbase location, use it to orient yourself. OK, now that we are within the ILS cone, change the approach mode to ILS, by clicking on the highlighted button. Note that the navigation system automatically changed the approach profile from FAF to RWY, which is correct. Good. Note that the ILS bars have appeared on the HUD, the vertical one is the ILS localizer, the horizontal one is the glide slope. Maneuver the plane in such a way as to place the flight path marker. We are now below 300 knots. Extend the landing gear by clicking the handle or pressing the G key. Also drop the flaps using the TEF switch, the HOTA switch or pressing the F key. With the flaps down, the pitch ladder changes and now shows 2.5 degrees increments, instead of 5 degrees. On the HUD, a left bracket symbol appears, to help on attaining an on-speed angle of attack of about 9 degrees, by placing the flight path marker symbol on the center of the bracket. Once the gear and flaps are down, check that all 3 wheels down lights are illuminated green. Now, open your speed brakes using the switch on your throttle or the keys left shift plus B, and increase throttle to maintain speed if necessary. Turn on the landing lights, by right-clicking on the highlighted switch. Reduce speed to achieve an on-speed angle of attack, AOA, of 9 degrees. Use the throttle to adjust your speed and glide path, and pitch trim to adjust your AOA. At this point, you should be on speed and on glide slope. The 2.5 degree pitch ladder in the HUD and flight path markers should be placed at the end of the runway. Once you reach the zone just before the runway, shift the flight path marker forward to a point 300 to 500 down the runway. Gently pull back on the stick to flare and reduce the descent rate. Pull the throttle back to idle and touchdown with a maximum AOA of 10 degrees. Do not exceed 15 degrees or the tail may contact the runway.
Altitude, altitude, altitude.
Touchdown. On the HUD, try to keep the nose up at less than 135 knots. Deploy the braking chute with the switch or by pressing the P key. When under 70 knots, activate nose wheel steering using HOTAS or the left Alt plus D keys. You have landed at Senaki. Now taxi to the parking place 2 at ramp 1. Below 20 knots, eject the braking chute if it was deployed.
Enfield 1-1, taxi to parking area.
We will now perform the after-landing procedure while we taxi to the ramp. First, close your speed brakes using the switch on your throttle or the left Control plus B keys. Second, retract the flaps using the TEF switch, the HOTAS switch or by pressing the left Control plus F keys. Third, ejection seat handle to safe position, upwards, to prevent unwanted ejections. On a ground emergency, a ground egress is preferable to an ejection. Fourth, set your landing lights switch to the taxi position. Fifth, canopy handle. Right-click once to deflate its seal.
Warning. Warning.
Sixth, confirm that the master arm switch is set to off, if it wasn't already. Okay, we have completed the after-landing procedure. Now continue to taxi to the parking place number 2 at ramp 1. See briefing diagrams. Okay, you have reached your spot at the ramp. We will now practice the shutdown procedure. Brake switch to park. Switch emergency hydraulics to off. Move throttle to off position, with left Alt plus T keys. This terminates ignition and shuts off the fuel supply to the engine. The engine spools down and the generator drops offline. Caution and warning lights are to be expected. Press spacebar to continue. Switch start pump to off. Switch engine control to off. Open the canopy. Press spacebar once fully opened. Unplug the oxygen hose and close its valve, turn clockwise. Power off the systems. Avionics, power all down by clicking on the off button. Switch SHARS to off, selector INS to standby, turn off HUD and displays. Turn off all the electrical panel switches. Well done, you have successfully completed this training session on VFR landing and shutdown procedures, on the JF-17 Thunder. You may now press the escape key and exit the training.